You know when you're walking down the street and you could swear you heard somebody call your name? That is essentially a perceptual aberration, right? There's some kind of stimulus there. There's some sound going on, but what it actually is isn't what you thought it was. Okay? Happens all the time. Completely normal. To think you heard somebody calling your voice, calling your name, very common. Okay? It's when they say, "Kill your grandma." That's when it's a problem. Okay? That's maladaptive. All right? Trying to explain these hallucinations may be how some of these delusions develop. All right? Often it's your own thoughts. Right? And when you get to the content of some of these thoughts, you realize, okay, these people are confusing their own thoughts with some voice outside their head. And so then they develop these thoughts to try to explain that. Now, unfortunately, where do we all read, at least in Western culture, about somebody hearing a voice? What book?
The Bible.
The Bible. The bestseller ever. The book that has sold more copies than any other book in the universe has Abraham bullshitting with God. God's like, "Abraham, dude, help me out. You know your son Isaac? Go kill that little fucker." I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, that's it, right? So imagine you're 17 years old, you start hearing voices, who are you going to think it is? Mitch. It must be God. God told me to run to the fire station naked. I don't know. At least he didn't ask me to kill anybody. Right? You're trying to make sense of this, so you have these delusional thoughts in part to try to explain these hallucinations. Now, hallucinations are, you detect a stimulus that is not there. Right? And they know. After you've had schizophrenia for years, I could turn to clients and say, "Are you hearing voices?" And they'd say, "Yep." Or, "Just yours and mine." And I'll say, "Good." But the bottom line is, in an effort to explain these hallucinations, they develop these oddball delusions. Dulled emotions. Okay, literally either inappropriate or inexperienced emotions, right? Kevin, who I loved, his emotions were just not very extreme, right? So his sister died. I was like, "Dude, I'm really sorry about your sister." He's like, "Yeah." That was how upset he was. I guess. I don't know if he was like really sad and just didn't show it, or how it was. And then sometimes inappropriate stuff. So he'd say, "Mitch, I'm really scared." And then he kind of smiled. It's weird. He was actually scared of somebody else who lived at the house who totally fucking frightened me too, so I completely understood. Right? So the expressions don't match the emotions, and the emotions are dulled. Catatonia, we don't see often now, thanks in part to some of the medications, but it's literally, okay, that kind of, and they'll just fucking stand like that. It's more inpatient now than outpatient, but, and I would even like ask these guys to be in studies, and like, "Would you mind participating in a study?" "Sure." "You're going to start some cards and fill out some questionnaires." "Fine." Right? Catatonic. Okay? Holding these odd body postures and not moving. Not all schizophrenics display all these symptoms. We've been trying to break it down into types to hope to maybe develop some treatments that might be helpful for some types and not others. It hasn't been a huge success. But things are definitely better than they were 50 years ago. So who has the highest concordance rate for schizophrenia? Is it identical twins, fraternal twins, or Siamese twins? Apparently that that's not PC now, you say conjoint. The thought that zombies rule Belgium, is that a hallucination, a delusion, or a perceptual aberration? Perceptual aberration is like you step on a stick but you think it's a snake. Right? There's some stimulus there, but you're perceiving it a little bit awry. Hallucinogens are great for those. All right. I want to draw the distinction too. The idea that schizophrenia means multiple personality disorder. Right? And this used to be terrible on television. It's gotten better over the years, but somehow schizophrenia was confused with multiple personality disorder. And in truth, I've only seen actually one person who supposedly had multiple personality disorder, and I think she was a malingerer. It probably exists. I just haven't seen it. Pink unicorns might exist too, but I haven't seen those. Right. But schiz meaning shattered rather than split mind. If you think about it as your normal perceptual stuff, your mind is essentially shattered rather than split mind, which seems to lead people to think of split personality, which is a separate disorder, more of a dissociative identity thing. Makes some sense? All right. What's really going on, at least from some of the psychophys data, is they seem to have a problem filtering. Okay? A whole lot of stimuli are present right now, but you guys can focus in on my voice because it's so riveting and important. Or at least that's where the relevant material is. Schizophrenics seem to have a hard time with this. Right? I'm trying to focus on what kind of beer I want, but the music's really loud and my hair hurts. So there are too many stimuli to monitor. That's where they seem to run into problems. Okay. I don't need you to memorize the names of any drugs. But what I want you to understand is there was a first generation of drugs, a whole set, okay, that all were very strong sedatives. Okay. I had a friend who used to call them chemical straitjackets. All right. And it all pretty much worked in the dopamine system. The dopamine hypothesis of schizophrenia essentially said, hey, these folks have too much dopamine, or their dopamine receptors are too numerous, or their dopamine receptors are too sensitive, but something's going on with that, right? And why did this hypothesis generate? Because drugs that don't let dopamine go wild seem to help the symptoms. And dopaminergic drugs in high quantities made people act psychotic. So what a surprise, a 3-day coke binge made the voices louder. Right? So that was pretty much the big deal. All of these drugs, unfortunately, have some pretty nasty side effects. Okay? First and foremost, tardive dyskinesia, which I think I spelled on a subsequent slide, but it sounded out to be close. Right? This kind of oddball psychomotor movement. All right, Kevin, the guy I just mentioned before, he had it really bad. I used to just make him sit in the rocket chair because it fucking drove me crazy. If you can imagine doing this all the time because of some medication. All right, this was not when Let's Boogie was very popular. This is a horrible side effect. We have other drugs, Cogent in particular, to essentially battle the side effects of these drugs. So now you got to take a drug and another drug to battle the side effects of that drug. You can see it's a rough deal. So that inspired the development of these second generation drugs. These are not as focused on dopamine per se and kind of took some of the edge off the dopamine hypothesis of schizophrenia, although if you see a multiple choice item saying which neurotransmitter is the schizophrenia one, pick dopamine. Okay? But that real rationale for this development was trying to sidestep the side effects. These have their own side effects, but they're more like dry mouth, constipation, stuff we can handle a little easier. And then Abilify is the new, woo, hooray, kick-ass antipsychotic. Unfortunately, like all of them, it doesn't work for everybody, but it allegedly has even fewer side effects. Make some sense? Okay. Again, an incredibly rare disorder. If for some reason a physician wants to put you on any of these, feel free to decline. Okay? I haven't talked to every single one of you for like 20 minutes at a shot, but odds are high, if you're not on one of these now, you don't need one later on. Just saying.
Is there a difference between, is the only difference between the generations the side effect, or like the third one was more effective?
We can split hairs about the more effective, but I don't want to drive you guys nuts with that. None of them are perfect. No single one seems to work for everybody. And I see oddball, like when I was in the South, they were like, oh, black people respond really well to Thorazine. Like, no. Dude, black people don't really respond well to Thorazine. Right? Because Thorazine is totally fucking debilitating and makes you retarded. And this is what you were taught on psychiatry internship. Right? So, no, it's really a crapshoot, and different people are different. We all have our own idiographic chemistry. Abilify has some papers out that suggest it's more successful, but I got a feeling the ones that don't say that didn't get published.